Half-Life was released by Valve Software on November 19th of 1998, and not until June of 2004 did we receive a sort of upgrade of the original Half-Life. Not everyone was happy with it though. Valve promised a full overhaul of the game, but what we received was Half-Life with some upgrades, graphical upgrades like lighting and particle effects and whatnot. But onto the game now. Gordon Freeman made a mistake, pushed a cart into a beam, and now seems like some teleporter to some alien world has opened up, and now we got this big ugly mess on our hands. Everything's falling apart. You're having to call upon help from guards and scientists to mow down enemies or open up doors, as you've seen before. And we got these zombie-looking things here, which really are head crabs that latch onto the head of an enemy like that right there. Now, the way you collect guns in this game is really smart. You either open it up, get them out of a locker, or off of a dead enemy. There's no weapons laying around for no apparent reason. And this is your first encounter with aliens in the game. You fight a Houndai and you fight a Vortigaunt. This is an example of the really cool and smart way Valve did puzzles in the game. They're usually pretty huge, running all around, pushing buttons and such. This one you get blasted up by a fan into a vent. You gotta run in through and exit out the other side. And this is one big puzzle where you have to turn on fuel and oxygen and to take out a boss, start a reactor up. And it's a huge puzzle. It spans over like a whole level. Most games puzzles are much smaller scale than this. You have to crawl past this boss. If he hears you, it's pretty much a one-hit kill. Now we're running through here. We gotta turn on the electricity. We're pushing carts on that water so we can jump over. Now we gotta climb down this ladder and run all around down here and come on. Okay, we gotta hit this button here, and there's a scientist hiding. Hit the button on the other side. This should start up the electricity.
Excellent. Someone has restored all power.
We gotta creep by this guy again for like the third time. And once we start this up, this is much longer. I clipped out the whole most of the ignition because it took too long. It's always satisfying to kill this bastard. Die! There we go. This game it just felt like one giant level. There was no level screens from start to finish. Drop down into the water. You even get to take off some helicopters. A lot of helicopters on this part of the game. This is one of the biggest improvements was the water. You get to really see it here. This is the same effects they used from Half-Life 2. Real nice water effects on the water. This guy took forever to kill. Another helicopter. It's real easy to kill with this gun. Oh, there's another one.
Last, thank you.
This should show the intensity of these fight scenes. They really were packed with adrenaline. You had to shoot the enemies a ton of times, even if you're shooting them in the head, and they deal you a lot of damage too. They'd hit you with about 10 enemies at once. I think these Marines were the most fun enemy to fight and really made the game. I mean, the aliens were fun too, but these really were something else. You can see those physics that they added into the Half-Life Source version of the game. They weren't in the original game. Those scientists are always dying. Lighting effects coming off the fluorescent lights. Those were also added into this version of the game. Now there's currently a real remake, a mod, of the original Half-Life using the Half-Life 2 graphics. This is what this game should have been in the first place. It's called Black Mesa Source. Look it up on Google. part here is intense. This part of the game was pretty lame, being on the rail, but when you jumped off and you started taking out enemies, or doing drive-bys was fun, but jumping off and taking out enemies was really fun. You just got slammed with enemies over and over and over again in this part. No pun intended. Nice physics there. The blood spray was also pretty revolutionary for the time. Games said a couple games had done it before, like Duke Nukem, but not like Half-Life. Graphics you're seeing here are pretty much the same graphics that were shown in 1998, although the lighting and all the things I mentioned before are new. And so for the time, these graphics were very good.
A little damage, but
security guards getting taken out by the Vortigons. You can ask them for help and they'll follow you around and shoot enemies until they die. They actually can take quite a bit of damage. Doing more drive-bys. This part was pretty intense. You had to get a grenade back there, otherwise you couldn't kill those guys. Breaking boxes. This is one of the ways of finding items in the game. Like I said, they were pretty smart on how they did it. You didn't have rocket launchers and chain guns just laying everywhere like you did in Doom. Doom's still an awesome game, don't get me wrong. Back on the rail. This is Zen. This is pretty much the only part of the game that got a lot of complaints from a lot of people. The annoying jumping puzzles were really the worst part. Jumping in first person is not easy, especially in this game. It just overall, it made the game feel drawn out. But with that said, you can put a ton of hours into this game. This is probably the longest game I've ever played. And most of my friends have played up to Zen and then they stop the game. They don't feel like they need to play through it, but they still feel like they got their money's worth because it's just a blast all the way up through this. And like I said, you get a lot of playtime out of it. Overall, even though this game is not what Valve promised, the upgrades are still welcome, and for $10, it's definitely worth it. So I'm going to give this game 2 scores. The original Half-Life was 10 out of 10. It was awesome. Half-Life Source, as far as upgrades go, 7 out of 10. It's still an awesome game, but they could have done a lot better with the upgrades. So definitely buy Half-Life Source.